What's up, guys? On this episode, we're going to be covering how to get your dog to stop growling, snapping at people, dogs lunging at cats, how to help your dog to walk better when it's afraid, fearful. Let's see what else we got. Questions about the differences between communicating with your body or giving your dog an okay verbally versus through your body, and much, much more on episode 5 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. What's up, guys? This is Blake Rodriguez, and this is episode 5 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. Got a nice group with me today. We got Dizzy, we got Soko, we got Nino Man, Nino Bambino, we have Big Earn, and then we have Samson. First question is coming from Ari from last week.
What's the best way to discourage a puppy from nipping hands and feet?
What's the best way to discourage a puppy from nipping hands and feet? Okay, that's a great question. First thing I'm going to go ahead and say is that I want to ask is how old is your puppy? Is it actually a puppy, or are we talking a dog that should now start being treated like an adult? First thing I'm going to go ahead and say is if it is a puppy that doesn't really know what to be doing, that's what we should start to try and tackle first. You want to start to teach a dog what they should be doing before, if not with, teaching them what they should not be doing. And before I go into anything harsh or any type of corrections or anything like that, I want to make sure that I'm fair and the dog understands that you should be actually doing this, right? So once I'm showing them that, away from distractions, when they get into that situation, I want to make sure their pressure release is very, very solid. By pressure release, I mean their negative reinforcement, understanding when they feel pressure, walking toward it shuts it off. And if we're talking really young for a puppy, I want to start to use negative punishment. So what I mean by negative punishment, basically, withholding food, negative meaning taking something away to stop a behavior. So if we're teaching eye contact exercises and a dog makes a wrong choice to go for the food rather than looking at me, I can nope, right? Pull the food away. And then when the dog makes the right choice, give that food. If the dog's pressure release is solid, I can help them to show them what to do and then give them a yes for doing that. So in the beginning, I'm basically kind of doing it for them so that they can start making that choice on their own. If that is really solid, everything's really good, as they get older and they start to know it, then I can begin to expect more out of them. So that's my question for you. That's my answer for you. You want to make sure that your dog understands negative reinforcement, understands negative punishment, all of those things, understands their verbal markers. We use 3 markers: good, yes, and nope. Nope means stop doing what you're about to do or what you are doing. Go back to doing what you were doing. Good means you're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. You're one step closer to getting your yes. Your yes is your payday. You're free. Job complete. You can come to take food. We actually work our dogs for their food, not for their treats. So because we can control the portions of their food, we can actually, where are you trying to go, bud? Huh? We can actually avoid obesity, which a lot of people are just treating their dogs to death. Their actual meal is what we're feeding them. So when we work them for their food, they're being worked for that and not treats. Another thing is we're going to avoid upset stomachs, diarrhea, all that stuff, which is really, really good. So you can get them to really work for their food, which is something that we do. So hopefully that helps to answer your question. Don't fall off there, buddy. Let's go into the next questions. Casey.
Why does my dog growl and lunge for stray cats, but is completely fine with the cats at home?
Why does my dog growl and lunge for stray cats, but is completely fine with the cats at home? This is actually not so different from a dog that gets along with dogs that it lives with. Dogs that it lives with, but doesn't get along with dogs that it sees out on the street and stuff. Everything goes down to impulse control. Your dog is struggling with impulse control, has gotten used to the routine in the house. When you're looking at cats, you might have cats that are either more hidden in your house or are more chill and laid back, and the dog's already used to it. It's possible they grew up around them. They're already used to that smell. They've been around them. The dogs or the cats that are on the street are usually in movement or giving this weird kind of ready to kind of attack, and that energy is something that is not really vibing well with your dog. you need to, again, go back to leash pressure, have a dog that can be called away. And if the cat is over here, my leash pressure is saying, this is what we're doing instead. Get that dog really solid to listening to you, and really start to see when you get a mental shift in your dog. So if you're starting to walk off the right way from the second you grab the leash and the walk is relaxed and not like this, you're already in a good place. So then you can use your verbal marker of nope to stop a dog from doing what they're about to do and go back to doing what they were doing. So it's very important that your dog was in a good place first before you try to do any corrections, because any corrections can turn out being like meaningless corrections where you have a dog that was already in a knucklehead state. Now you're correcting him and saying, don't do that, go back to what you were doing, but they were already like this to begin with on the walk. So you gotta work more on impulse control. You have to work more on, if your dog is okay with other dogs, being able to walk by other dogs without them needing to go say hi, without them being so concerned about these things. So before you work on any type of introduction or introducing, make sure your dog can actually be a little bit calm around these things first, right? So try to do a little bit of proximity work where your dog can actually sensitively be called away and then walk back and called away from a greater distance, and that's gonna get you to where you need to be. Next question.
Hi Blake, my question is about feeding time. I noticed in your videos that you wait until the dog is calm and then put the food down in front of them, which is also the signal that they are free to eat it. Can you please explain why you choose to bring the food to the dog and use the action of placing the food as a release rather than a word? Thank you. I'm looking forward to your thought process on this.
This is great. So from Lori, you've seen videos of, you've watched videos either on Instagram or Facebook, YouTube, where we're giving the dogs, when we're feeding dogs out of food bowls, right? And we're giving them the okay. Your question is, why are we not giving like a verbal yes? I'm gonna go ahead and say that most of the time we actually are. If we're doing things from food bowls, it's because the dogs have already gotten to a certain point, or we're doing impulse control work where we're not, cut it out, where we're not doing, what's it called, working for their food with their markers. I will go ahead and say that just because I'm not using a verbal cue in some situations does not mean that I'm not giving them a cue of yes, right? So one of the rules, one of the things that we actually do is we get the dog to a point where what's that?
You're not allowed to film with the tripod unless you have a permit.
With the so if he holds it, it's fine?
Yes.
Just lift it up. Thank you. Just keep it rolling. Show what's going on so everybody knows. You don't need to show your face just to see. We're not allowed to film with the tripod unless we have a permit. So Andrew's gonna be the human tripod. We just spent like $400, $500 on this tripod, and now we can't even use it. I'm gonna go ahead and say, if the car goes by, put it on the tripod. I don't care. Sue me. What we're going to do, and this guy's gonna take a picture. What's up, man?
I just love the...
I appreciate it. You mind if we get you on camera here? Nice bike. That is Jen. That's her last name right there, Bianchi. Samson, cut it out, buddy.
It's gonna be the funniest episode ever.
Let's go back into this. Cito, chill out. Hey, listen, they're gonna make another loop around, so just be like ready to take it off or whatever, and we're gonna make it happen. If it's steady, and that's it. Feeding time. So one of the things that we tell our clients a lot, they way too much or way too often speak verbally, and it doesn't mean jack. Their dogs don't understand what it is. They say stay, 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 sit, 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 heel, 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 and the dog doesn't get it. So one of the things that we often tell our clients is for the next 48 hours, sometimes I even push it for longer, I'll even say for the next 5 days, I want you to not talk to your dog. And sometimes people are like, well, what do you mean? And I'm saying, listen, I'm not telling you that you can't communicate with your dog. I'm saying just don't verbally talk. So it makes them more aware of their body language, and it makes, how easily can you put that on and off? Pretty easy, yeah. So just Jen, your lookout. We're gonna give you a code name. Your name is not Jen, right? So if they ever trace us back, your name is Mrs. Blonde, okay? You're Mr. White. I'm Mr. Brown, and that is that, right? I'm getting sued because that's going to be racist or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so we tell them to do that, and it forces them to be more aware of what their body is saying. Half the time, so what we're doing is not congruent. What our leash is saying is very different from what our voice is saying. What our body is saying is very different from what our energy is saying, and everything's a mess. And what it does is it puts your dog in a situation when they're like, holy cow, come here, buddy. This guy wants to go squirrel hunting. Holy cow, you're saying like 30 different things right now, and I have to guess what I should be listening to and not be listening to. So we get them really aware of what their body should be saying, and then we tell them to use their words. So I'm very aware and I'm very congruent, and my body's saying the same thing. So if I'm not saying it verbally, I'm still saying it with my body. That's very, very important to know. Let me see what else. See if I'm missing. I think that pretty much covers the gist of it. But overall, when we're working for food, just like I said in the beginning of this episode, we're looking for verbal markers. So our release marker is yes. I might be saying yes with my body, and I know I am. Or you just might not hear it on camera. I might be yes, very low, just enough for the dog. A lot of times there's little sounds or cues that we use, which is, you know, very, very little things that might not be picked up on the camera as well.
My 3-year-old pit bull licks my 10-year-old dachshund constantly, to the point where the dachshund growls or even barks at him. What's the deal? It gets to the point that it even annoys me. They are both male and neutered.
All right, awesome. I love this question. I love you guys. You guys are doing great stuff. First thing I'm going to go ahead and say is your dachshund is the OG, is running the show, and your pit bull definitely respects and holds back. You have to make sure, though, that you're not putting too much responsibility on your dachshund to lay the groundwork and lay the rules, because it could get to a point where it's not fair, and then eventually your dachshund becomes a little more strong, a little stronger, a little more rude, because all the little subtle cues your pit bull wasn't picking up on, and finally he has to, I said knock it off. So you should be doing a little more advocating for your dachshund. Have that pit bull understand, hey, cut it out and don't be rude. If he comes over and does a little bit of licks, cool, but if he's getting to the point where he's obsessive and you're saying it's annoying you, knock it off. Ask for space. Pair a little bit of a leash correction or leash pressure with a verbal cue, so that down the road that verbal cue can have representation. You might not need to use any sort of physical touch, or work on having your dog place away or next to your dog without being so on top all the time. It's a very simple answer, is don't put so much responsibility on the dachshund, even though he's actually handling it pretty well. Where are you going, Nino Bambino? What are you doing, dude? Yeah, so that's my answer for that. Kind of getting through these today, huh?
My dog is fearful of the hallway and has trouble voluntarily walking through it. How can I change this behavior?
Michelle, your dog is fearful in the hallway and has trouble voluntarily working through it. How can I change his behavior? You need more communication prior to tackling the fearful areas, right? So what I'm gonna say is get your dog off the harness, or get your dog off the flat buckle collar. If your dog is very small, you can check out maybe like a slip lead, or look into a prong collar where you can offer sensitivity and teach your dog what to do when they feel pressure, which means that your walk is no longer allowing your dog to walk on tension, pull on tension. Just like you probably don't continue to drive when that dinging sound of your seatbelt continues to ding. You know how to shut that thing off. You click your seatbelt into what would you call that, Jen? And Andrew, a pan over to her real quick. When you click your seatbelt into, she's at a loss for words.
I don't know, the buckle?
The buckle. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Thank you for on the spot. I don't know what I would do without you. When you click your seatbelt into the buckle, or the clip, I guess the clip, right? Yeah, the clip.
Yeah.
That's what shuts it off, right? So your dog needs to understand that when they feel leash pressure, coming toward it creates leash pressure. And one way to understand if your dog knows it or not is your dog simply coming with 2-finger pressure. You'll know if you're struggling a little bit when you get to the point that this whole episode, we're like this the entire time. If you have a dog, and I'm gonna be the dog, that leash pressure is going this way and your dog is resistant to it, you see that a lot with harness dogs. They do this actually instead of doing this. That's your first problem, right? So I'm gonna give you a quick example really quickly, and I'm gonna do it with my dog. We're gonna have to move this real quick Hey, sit. Down. Down. Good. Okay. So, what you gonna do? If this guy is in a down, right? When he feels pressure, now look at my finger here, there's no pressure. When I say pressure, I'm talking tension, right? He knows when he feels tension, walking towards tension relieves it, whether I'm asking him to come to me or I'm asking for a sit. Samson. So right over here, pressure comes on, it's very light, pressure comes off. I'm gonna show that to you guys again really, really quickly, right? Sit, down. So pressure is off right here. Here we go, pressure is on, pressure is off. If I wanna go ahead and put him into a sit, I'm gonna do it over here. We come right over here. I can put him into an SIT with very sensitive pressure. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about all this leash pressure communication. Pressure comes on, he knows coming this way, shuts it off. Pressure goes this way. Now I have a dog that I can guide very, very easily. I can manipulate him this way. I can communicate this way. So to go back to the other question about whether I said yes or not or whatever, just because I'm not saying sit doesn't mean I'm not telling him to sit, right? So I'm looking at you, I'm holding a conversation, I'm still telling him to SIT, and I spelled it for a reason because I want you to know that he just didn't happen to be doing it. And this is the communication that we're talking about. Now, if I start to pair words over this or commands and stuff, it gets very, very easy. Your dog needs to get softer on the leash here. That's for all of you guys. Almost all of my answers are gonna start with how good is your leash pressure? Right? This is very, very important, right? So you need to know this because this transfers into remote collar pressure, this transfers into verbal, this transfers into the difference between luring with food and then all of a sudden you have a competing motivator or a distraction where the lure isn't as important as that distraction. Now if I have a leash, I can be soft, but I can also be firm and say, do this instead. So now my dog is looking at this. I can easily, over here, very, very quickly, not the end of the world, and then I can go back to being soft. So in my opinion, this, a lot of times when you start getting into real world situations, might even be more valuable than food, although we start all our dogs off on a positive reinforcement based foundation, right? So that's kind of important to know. Hopefully that helps. Get that down with your, get that down away from the hallway, right? Get your dog really, really good with that. And once your dog knows it, now you can take something that they know and you can bring it to the fearful situation and say, hey, I know you're scared, but you know this, follow this, this is gonna get us through this. And then you earn brownie points because your dog starts to get more confident because they can follow something that they know. If your dog doesn't know that, now you're trying to bring that into a scary situation and there's no language to talk to the dog through the scary situation. So imagine if like I was petrified going through something and somebody was trying to guide me in a language I didn't speak, German. And then I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're saying, so you're not really helping me through this right now. If you wanna be able to help your dog, establish that foundation first, right?
How do I get my dog to stop crazily barking at other dogs passing by on our walks?
Liz Henderson, went to college with you, miss you, congrats on your marriage. You're grown up now. Hey. Wow. Come here. So look, leash pressure, put him into a down, soft, nothing crazy here, right? I'm not worried about him. Down. Good. Okay. Liz, how do you get your dog to stop crazily barking at other dogs passing by on our walks? Okay, first, same thing. What are we walking the dog on? If your dog is really, really struggling on the walk, get your dog off the harness, get your dog off the flat buckle collar, right? Start working on leash pressure stuff. So that's your basic foundation. That's your basic language that you can start to transfer into other areas, whether you want to talk softly or whether you want to talk loudly, right? So the leash pressure, the remote pressure, everything that we're using is the equivalent of our voice. You still see me here?
Yep.
All right. Sorry for the shakiness, guys. We're trying to avoid, we're trying to be rebels here and take it on and off the tripod when they come by. But you need to teach this just the same way I use my voice, right? If I only spoke to you when I was yelling at you, my voice would take on a negative association. If I use my voice to communicate, but if I'm upset, I also use my voice to say, I'm very, very pissed off with you. I don't want to talk with you right now. That's I'm using my voice for what the situation is and what's appropriate, right? Before you can use it for anything up here, which you probably need in the situation where your dog is being inappropriate, you need to be able to make sure the dog knows it here first, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And that example that I gave prior is exactly what you need to be starting to work on. Okay, and this last one here is kind of like a two-part question from two different people.
How do I get my dog to stop growling at people? In addition to that, why does my dog skip eyes, nose, ears, and go straight to biting someone?
But how do I get my dog to stop growling at people? Someone says, why does my dog skip nose, eyes, ears, and go straight to biting somebody? Usually if a dog's going straight to biting, there's a couple things. Your dog is very, very nervous and backing up and someone is reaching for the dog, or your dog is already like this and you're trying to say, hey, let's see if it likes you, and you're leaving it. It's a 50-50 chance whether it's gonna work out, but it's 100% up to them to decide how they wanna handle it, and that's not odds I'm cool with. So what we do is we start to teach softer habits in all other situations, and another thing that we do, again, recall, whether it's leash pressure or it's remote pressure, teaching a dog to see something, be called off. We do this a lot in our dog socialization exercises when dogs want to snap at other dogs. First, we'll have a dog in the distance. We'll have them see, work on calling the dog out from a greater distance, little by little. That might be in the same day, that might be in another session, getting them closer and closer, teaching them how to relax first around people before going to charge people. And this is assuming that if you can get the dog to a certain proximity where they can hold it downstay. So if you're teaching place, if you're teaching any type of impulse control, duration stuff, you have a dog that knows how to at least hold a position regardless of what's going on around them. And now if these people aren't trying to pet your dog and they're also giving you a healthy proximity, whether it's your friends or you know there's something going on the distance and you want to work over here, that's what I would suggest. Now, if it's only happening when people are reaching for your dog, then you can get them closer and just teach your dog how to not be concerned while it's over there. If your dog is already concerned or your dog is already nervous, if your dog is nervous, I would say to start working on people feeding the dog, but have the dog understand the markers and all those things first, right? Have your dog know that this is how they get fed, and if they choose, this is classic just counter conditioning, right? If your dog opts out on feeding, you're not depriving them of food, but this is the only way that they eat. So we're gonna work on this 2 times a day. I'm not gonna force feed you, but if the dog knows recall, now I can bring, and it might start on the ground there, you can take food there, and then the second you take the food, I call you out. The person doesn't go to meat. This is a little bit of a dangerous protocol, so I can't give you an exact how-to, because there's a lot of different variables, but you need your dog to know that stuff too. If your dog is growling, you have to correct growling, because growling is usually like a precursor. There's a couple things that you have to see. If it's nervous growling, advocate for your dog by understanding that's a sign, so you want that challenge to ease up a little bit, but at the same time, you have to let the dog know, don't escalate from there. So there has to be a correction too, and then it's like, what type of correction? It's whatever type of correction is appropriate and is actually gonna get through to your dog, right? So if you don't have these languages, then corrections might not actually be meaningful. We have to understand what a correction actually is, right? Something that's going to decrease the likelihood of something continuing to happen in the future. So is a correction effective? If it's not effective, tripod is going up, guys, then that's something, here they come, that's something that we have to work on. Hey, when they come around, just show it really quickly. Just pan so people can understand what's happening. And that's pretty much it. Let me go ahead. Hey, Jen, did you come up with a different word for buckle? Is that a clip? Fastener. Fastener. Hey! Pan to him. Show him. Do it. They had their sirens on and everything. They were hoping. But I got eyes. We have eyes. That is everybody, guys. Thank you so much. Episode 5. I'm going to have a post within the next couple of days, not only just promoting this, but eventually saying ask your questions for episode 6. Episode 6 will come out next Tuesday. Grab that knucklehead. This is where we get a correction. I'll show you this for a second. You can't actually just go ahead and break. I do have to address this. He's a big boy, so I'm going to bring him back up this way. And then we're going to come right back over here. Follow through up is very, very important. If there's no follow through, down. then the dog doesn't understand that what he did was something I did not want. If I was simply to get him up without correcting, he's like, oh, you want me up right now? Well, I can continue doing this. And it's like, no, I'd rather you didn't do that, because that actually, you know, is something that he has to learn. So he's a board and trained dog. He's still learning, all good. We are down. Done with this episode. I clearly have to get better at my training skills. I can't do multiple things at once. We're gonna cut this short. Things are getting out of control. I have to control these savage beasts. I will see you guys next week.